Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. I have another session to go to, another committee. How many detainees have now been released from, this is in regard to the High Court decision releasing detainees, how many detainees have now been released from custody due to the High Court decision?
So that's 149, Senator.
It's how many?
149.
149, thank you. How many of those released detainees have been returned to custody?
None.
To immigration detention.
So none have been returned to immigration detention. The question of custody is a different matter where there are offences that might put them into the state and territory system.
That may be the case. I don't have that information, Senator, because in the states and territories, they're responsible, of course, for arrest, charge, prosecution of state-based offences. I'd need to check and take on notice whether we're aware of any cases where, for example, somebody may have been charged and bail refused, for example. Off the top of my head, I don't have that information with me, but I'll take on notice.
Thank you for taking on notice. Thank you, Mr Outram. How many of the released detainees are being closely monitored, and in what circumstances are they being monitored?
Of the current cohort, 113 are being electronically monitored.
Remotely monitored? Did you?
Electronically monitored.
Electronically. Thank you.
I think, am I right, there are other forms of monitoring that are occurring as well?
That's correct.
Yes.
So within the visa itself, there are 26 conditions. One of those conditions a person could be monitored by an electronic device. There's other conditions that are placed on the person, which entails reporting in terms of daily reporting to the department, also notifying of change of address and of circumstance. There's a whole range. There's 26, Senator, of conditions that are imposed on these particular cohort.
Is it possible? Thank you. Is it possible to get that list and the conditions under which each are applied?
Yes, we can take that on notice.
Thank you very much. How safe? We've seen the Minister acknowledging the gravity of the situation. How safe is the Australian community from immigrants with a known history of terrorism or other criminal activity?
So, Senator, this cohort does not relate to anyone with a terrorist history, and you've just heard the ABF describe the regime which is designed to maximise protection of the community of those people that the High Court decision required us to release.
I understand that, but my understanding is also that the states have prosecuted at least 3. Is that the case? Or arrested at least 3?
There are a number of cases.
You're taking on notice, I'm sure.
I'll take it on notice because, again, the states and territories, if they're running prosecutions, the Directors of Public Prosecution may decide to drop the case. They'll all be in different stages, Senator, so if you take that on notice, thank you.
So that's what I was referring to. You've already taken on notice. I'm not expecting you to know the details, but how safe is the community, the Australian community, from immigrants with a known criminal history?
So, Senator, if we're speaking about the cohort that had to be released as a result of the High Court decision, the process that the Commissioner and the Deputy Commissioner have been describing are all about putting in place conditions to maximise the safety of the community. And that goes to the sort of things that they were talking about, restrictions on their visa, monitoring.
How confident are you that people are safe?
Senator, we are putting all of the elements in place that are within our power legislatively to provide for community safety. I'm very confident that we are doing all we can.
Do you need any additional legislative powers?
Not at this time, Senator.
And can I just add, Senator Roberts, I don't know if you were here when we talked about this, that many of the actions that are being taken to protect the community, for example, installing an electronic bracelet or a curfew or something else like that, those decisions are being made on the recommendation of the Community Protection Board, which includes former police commissioners, corrections commissioners. So we have attempted to ensure that the community is well protected by seeking the advice of people with a vast amount of experience in this space.
Okay.
And drawing very heavily, Senator, on state and territory law enforcement agencies for whom this is their bread and butter.
So you meet with them, listen to them and involve them in the process?
So, Senator, the day after the High Court decision was handed down, the Law Enforcement Coordination Group was stood up. And as was mentioned earlier, that includes
what, I'm sorry?
the Law Enforcement Coordination Group, which is each state and territory police force or service with the Australian Federal Police and ourselves walking through weekly these cases, pushing each information to each other about these cases as circumstances change, because of course some people may be subject to state and territory regimes, reporting regimes, parole requirements, bail requirements, domestic violence orders, those sorts of things. So there's a combination of controls, not just the controls that we apply at the Commonwealth level. Also, we of course refer offences under the Migration Act to the AFP for investigation, but that coordination between states and territories and the Commonwealth is really important and adds another layer of protection for the community.
So the immigration, federal is responsible for it, law enforcement, the states are responsible. So I get that.
We're sharing the effort here, Senator, because there are a whole range of different laws, powers and regimes that intersect with each other.
Yep, thank you.
What the mechanism that the Commissioner established and is running ensures is that things aren't dropping between the cracks, that we are
Indeed.
making sure that we know what effort needs to be applied, whether that needs to be by a state and territory or by the Commonwealth, and we're talking about and sharing information relating to it.
So going to the root cause, Ms Foster, what vetting was done into each of the released detainees to determine their risk profile when living in the community?
So, Senator, the High Court decision required us to release the affected detainees as soon as we formed a view that that release was legally necessary. The process that then was established was the one that the Commissioner has been describing, which is to provide all of the information we have about those individuals who were required to be released to state and territory counterparts so that appropriate risk could be put in place, and also so that visa conditions could be imposed which would give the highest possible level of assurance of safety to the community.
Has there been any review of the immigration vetting in the first place?
If you mean the granting of the visas,
yes.
Senator, we have been looking at our system end to end to make sure that we are looking at every touch point so that we can prevent having people who are going to cause risk. And so it may be that there are ways that we can relook at, say, the granting of visas in particular cohorts or cases. Yeah, and so we're looking at, as I said, the whole process, Senator.
Thank you.